Thank you all very much for being here today. I'm super excited. I understand in chatting with Terrell when we were scheduling this, that was previously called something else, this group of folks that are together. And I know when I was working at the association, Valerie Johnson had come and spoken with you guys at one time. And so I was familiar with this group, but it's exciting to hear kind of how that has evolved, and now it has become ACAP. So that's super exciting. So as Terrell mentioned, during my time at the Alzheimer's Association, brain health was a big buzz that we talked about. With all of the new treatments and new things we're finding out about cognitive decline specifically, and the relationship of that with brain health, the power of connection is super duper fitting. So it is actually something that affects our every part of our lives, right? It's not just our brain, the power of connection. So it's vital for us to stay connected to others. And, as we go through life, I think oftentimes people forget that just because we're older or just because we're a senior doesn't mean that we don't still need connection, we don't still need purpose, and we don't still need meaning in our lives. So, this is a great reminder for that. Papers all. So intro here. So every person has a spark and a purpose, and the connection with others is how you let that shine. We're all wired for connection, and it's part of being human. Social engagement just isn't about being around people. It's choosing to live fully and to be in the moment. When we stay active socially, we grow, we thrive, and we lift others with us. Social engagement is not only about being outgoing, right? It's about being present, as I mentioned earlier, and it's about choosing to live fully. So today we're going to explore how connection can elevate your life in ways you may not expect. What does social engagement really mean? So it means interaction. Right? It means getting involved in something and interacting with others versus just possibly your own family connection or a group maybe that you've been a part of, but really thinking outside the box. Participation. When we talk about brain health, one of the things that we correlate with brain health is learning new things, learning new tasks, stretching our brain, right? So learning new things. And the only way you can do that is by participating in some of these things. So activities, events, clubs, a social club or a ladies group, something that, is ongoing on a monthly basis. Within that, you offer your contribution. So you're offering ideas, help, support, possibly a way to give back. If you're volunteering, that's a great way to get involved and stay involved for something that's meaningful and purposeful. Connection. So forming and maintaining those relationships that feel meaningful. Calling your friend that you haven't talked to for 2 years, setting that time aside to really catch up, right? Or forming a new relationship with somebody that you meet out and about. And then last is presence. So this is a big one. With all of the technology that we have these days, and with our busy lives that we have going on, it's more about just being present, but being physically there mentally, right? So putting our phones down, not being distracted, but being totally in the moment. So social engagement has a huge implication for mental health benefits. So we're going to kind of go through the pieces of why this is beneficial for us. For mental, it reduces stress, anxiety, and depression. Imagine or think back about the COVID pandemic. Did anybody have a senior that they were involved with or taking care of during the pandemic? What happened?
I was a senior during
You were a senior during the pandemic. You were too. Okay. So how was life cut off for you during the pandemic? Speak up. Yeah, sure. Tell me.
First of all, I just want to tell you, I live in senior housing. And so what I realized, I don't have a lot of family. So one thing I'm listening about social connection, I understand that people who live in senior who are connected to family, they very much stay engaged until older age. But I have very little family. So thankfully I have a neighbor because I got COVID and literally within months and just realizing how disconnected I was in the relationships I thought I had with other people. That's what I really realized during that time. So if it wasn't for my neighbors that I had, staying engaged, but if you really just realize what your relationship is like.
That makes total sense. Yes, and the mental benefits of staying engaged, specifically during COVID. We saw, if you look at the bullet point there, it says these conditions are strongly linked to a faster cognitive decline. So not being connected, not being a part of something outside of your home. We hear that word isolation a lot, right? Those are the things that are linked to a faster cognitive decline. There's so many benefits. So support relationships, provide emotional outlets that reduce feelings of loneliness and isolation. So staying socially engaged stimulates the brain in ways that improve mood. So think about a time when you're maybe feeling kind of out of sorts, right? And you're like, I really don't want to go to the whatever, meeting, dinner, whatever. But think about when you go and you sit through that and you are giving your undivided attention to someone and you're having your own emotions and feelings that come out of this connection. You feel so much better when you leave there. So this they basically call it a mental workout. It boosts your cognitive flexibility and emotional clarity. Again, I don't know about you guys, but I turned 53 yesterday, and I've been struggling with some brain fog. I think it's age, and it's hormones, unfortunately. But that's scary. But what I've noticed is the more I get out, and the busier I keep, the busier I stay, the clearer I feel, because I'm constantly working my brain and learning new things. And presenting things like these speaking engagements are so key for me at this stage, because it just keeps me on track. It keeps me thinking for what's ahead. So it's super beneficial. Physical health benefits. So we often say what's good for the body is good for the brain, or what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So the first one that you'll see there, social engagement, is linked to better blood pressure regulation, lower inflammation. Inflammation is one of those words that we talk a lot about in correlation with brain health. Specifically for healthy brain, reducing inflammation, doing things that help to reduce inflammation. A healthier lifestyle habit, excuse me. So movement, routine, and sleep. Sleep is probably one of the most important elements of a healthy brain. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Well, bottom line is, most of my acquaintances and myself, and now we were all in the seventies, late seventies, early eighties, don't sleep very well. So we're in trouble, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a struggle. Sleep, I think as people get older, they tend to require less sleep, right? But our brain needs between 6 to 8 hours to actually and effectively regenerate. And that's REM sleep.
By the way, where are you? I have a good excuse. I am the way I am.
Okay, excuse? Well, I'm sorry, Ms. Tanzio.
She blaming me for
Sure what it is this week.
Sorry. And this supports the vascular system, which in turn reduces risk of cognitive decline or any other neurodegenerative disease. Being part of a community increases motivation and accountability for positive habits. So again, if we know that we have an ongoing ACAP meeting, it forces us to get out of the house, right? Or if we have something that we're scheduling on an ongoing basis, even if I don't have, something that I'm really looking forward to every week, I still try to make sure I have something on my schedule, because otherwise I go home and sit down with TV or, I just tend to stay at home too much. That's why I try to, by design, just kind of stay busy and plan. I have a travel bug, so I love to get out and do things, even if it's just locally here. Again, as a way to just continue to learn new items and new things. Laughter and connection reduce the stress hormone. This is a big one. So laughing physically helps to relax the body. It lowers your cortisol and your adrenaline. It boosts the mood enhancing chemical dopamine. Strengthens social bonds and feelings of safety. And this is a cool one I hadn't really thought too much about, but it interrupts the brain's stress response. So if you are running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and you're all stressed out, and somebody comes up and does something silly and makes you crack up laughing, that is a complete interruption in that stress response. Okay, so it flips from cortisol or adrenaline to that dopamine. It's a happy switch. So together, laughter and connection create a powerful natural antidote to stress. One that's free. We don't get those very often, do we? One that's free, accessible, and deeply human. The cognitive benefits of staying socially engaged. It builds cognitive reserve, so the brain's resilience of keeping those cognitive declines away. Cognitive reserve is the brain's ability to compensate for damage. So it's, again, with sleep and with healthy brain habits, it's a way to regenerate those things in our brain. Social interaction is cognitively complex. You interrupt cues, recall memories, regulate emotions, and respond in real time. So if we sit down and have a conversation with somebody, it forces us, right, to recall simple things like names, times, location. If we're sitting at home and not talking to anybody, that's why our seniors that we call, possibly orphans that have no family, like they're just completely cut off to the world. They're not having conversations with other people. And over time, then you start to have cognitive decline in relation to that. So this is what I mentioned earlier, but we didn't quite get through that. I started to say something about it. But people with strong engagement have a lower dementia risk. Sometimes as much as 19 to 70%. So, I mentioned earlier, sleep would probably be one of the most important things that I think of when I think of brain health. But connection or being socially engaged is another huge piece of that. And then during the pandemic, we saw a decline in those with cognitive issues, progressed to dementia by 60%. This is a huge number, friends. This is cut off to the world, right? Even if it's something as simple as Meals on Wheels, maybe that's, the only connection that somebody has. And so during the pandemic, all of those things were kind of came to a screeching halt. And, just a simple, hello, Mrs. King, it's great to see you, here's your lunch, wasn't enough for some people. And so when that is completely cut off, then we saw a huge perpetuation in the disease process. The happiness factor. So happiness grows when it's shared. I want you guys to think about a time where you were having a great day and having so much fun and laughing and reminiscing. And think about, chances are you weren't alone in doing that, right? You had someone with you, your loved ones, your family, your friends, somebody who's special to you. So, it's so important to not be alone. Being part of the community gives you purpose. I mentioned that at the beginning. Being part of something bigger than ourselves is so important. Positive relationships, they lift our moods, right? I don't know about you guys, but anybody who sucks the life out of me is probably no longer my friend. Right? Yes. We are minimizing those times with those people. Yeah, I just don't have time for that trauma anymore. And then happiness grows when it's shared. So people see what you're doing. People are like, oh my gosh, look at that smile on her face. And what do you think? I want to be a part of that. Oftentimes I get myself in trouble with that because I'm seeing so many things and I'm like, hey, that looks fun. That looks fun. My husband's like, are you never going to come home? What are you doing? But he is an introvert. I'm not an introvert. So, it's important for me to have this healthcare network has been that I've been a part of since 2003 has opened my eyes and connected me with so many things outside of what I used to do. My previous job was a makeup artist, so I did a lot of traveling, but I had no relation to healthcare. And we have such an amazing, tight-knit group of people. And for the most part, everybody's looking out, for the folks that we serve, right? And that group of people is super important to be a part of. So humans are built to connect. And joy is one of the brain's ways of saying, let's keep doing that. Let's add something fun. Let's do something different. Impact on the community. So your presence matters more than you realize. I mentioned this just a minute ago, but if others see you doing something and being part of something, they want to follow along and be a part of that. Engaged people create stronger, kinder communities. When you show up, others feel encouraged to do the same thing. Strength in numbers. And then together we build environments where everyone can thrive. Has anybody ever been a part of a group where they kind of, when you go in, you feel kind of like people are like, who is this person, right? They're not just super welcoming. And nobody wants to be part of that either, right? So it's all about finding the right group, right? Somebody who's going to welcome you with open arms, but being part of the bigger picture with the community. So connection is contagious in the best way. When you connect with someone, laugh, empathize, share, vulnerability. I thought this was a cool fact too. Your brain activates mirror neurons, which fire both when you act and when you observe someone else acting. When someone is warm, open, or joyful, your brain subtly imitates that state. When you show connection, other brains mirror back to you. That didn't sound right. When you show connection, others' brains mirror you back. This creates a feedback loop where connection spreads through a group like a spark catching on a grass fire. So some of these groups that we're all part of, I think a lot of this is going on and we don't even know it. It's cool. Creates a ripple effect, right? So barriers, overcoming barriers. Feeling nervous? Nervous, especially if you're not an extrovert, right? And like, we do things for our profession that we feel like we must do or have to do, right, as part of our job. But outside of work hours, this is something that we have to make a concerted effort sometimes to do. Just having one conversation at a time is a good step. Even if your schedule is busy, even a 10-minute conversation makes a difference, or connection makes a difference. Okay, just stopping out in the parking lot, visiting with someone for 5 minutes on your way out when you see someone that you know. We all seem to have, I know it's not seen, we all have very busy lives. And so sometimes it's just a matter of remembering to slow down. And when you have those, times when you can do that and really make the best of that moment. Feeling isolated. Someone out there is waiting to meet you. I love that. The non-obvious barriers. This was an interesting one too that I hadn't really ever heard a ton about when I first heard it. So self-protection. So again, we oftentimes isolate with ourselves just because we know that, we're going to make a mistake, or we're going to be embarrassed, or we're going to be scared, or whatever the situation is. And so we don't want to be vulnerable, right? So we kind of self-protect, self-isolate. But to connect is to be seen. To be seen is to be vulnerable. And to be vulnerable is to risk hurt. So we're all fearful of hurt, right? We don't want to be somebody to hurt us. We don't want somebody to perceive us in the wrong way. So people protect themselves by withdrawing, staying surface level, or pretending they don't need others. This is a quiet barrier beneath many others. So just to touch a little bit about, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm listening. I just want to tell you one of the reasons that I want to decide to come to is because I've been living in senior competency.
Yeah.
I lived in senior environment for 6 years. And what I have come to find out about isolation, number one, sometimes they're less trusting and don't want to.
Yeah.
One thing I'm thinking about in hearing you is if I'm just able to do a survey to ask my seniors about social isolation, because I know many of them are, and they're doing their purpose. So, just listening to you, it's kind of a different environment with them when you're living together, especially like I said, because I was asking her, were you married? You know, because there's a connection of being able to stay connected. Sometimes, like, I'm in a building with seniors in their 90s. My neighbor just lost her husband this week. So now she's going through a grief process and she's alone.
Yeah.
So we don't know how to help one another sometimes, or we're in situations. So I'm really listening more to how we can intervene. And social, we do not have a social services coordinator at this time. We used to have one. So that is the key person. I'm really listening. But it's like when you're living in it, it's a different environment when it comes to social.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I think of, with that, with your examples there, I think of to each his own, right? Like each person, they want to, she may want to grieve on her own.
Sure.
She may not. I don't know, have you knocked on her door and just said, we're here to check on you, and please let us know if there's something that you need, just so she knows that you're there.
Oh, yes, I connect with her.
Yeah.
With each person, of course, and that family, like I said, being engaged, you have family, kind of helps you stay.
For sure. Hopefully she does have some family that she's keeping in contact with, and, they may be helping her
I'm just
well outside of what you're seeing on the outside, but
I'm just telling you how there's a deliberate choice of isolation.
Sure.
Happening in a lot of things.
I understand that, and I will tell you that that's where I was headed with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Specifically with the dementia factor, if somebody is noticing, I don't want to go off course too much with dementia. That is my expertise. If somebody is noticing that they're having mild cognitive impairment or that they're having memory issues, they will isolate on purpose. Okay, so that is this to a T. They are self-protecting. So the biggest thing to look for in that is if you know somebody who has always been socially engaged, right? Or they come to every church group, or they come to church every week, and all of a sudden they stop showing up. That's a really good indicator that something might be happening cognitively. Okay? So at that time, it's super important to have that conversation. Because that is the best way that they know how to navigate their environment. They don't leave home, then they don't have to worry about getting back home. If they don't leave home, they don't have to worry about how they're going to get around church or, getting lost in a senior community. I mean, that's why we have memory care, right? That's why we have these small controlled environments when it comes to somebody living with dementia, because it's easy for them to navigate and it's their safe space. So thank you for saying that, because you're right. It's in a community, in a senior living community, this looks a lot different because we see so many people that don't have families involved, and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Of course. So building strong social habits. So we've talked about all the benefits. So how do we do that, right? How do we implement it? So the biggest thing to start with is presence. Just make a point that you're going to be there. I'm going to be there no matter what. And be intentional when you're there about connecting with others. Amy Gonzalez is probably one of the people I know that will walk up to any stranger in a room and introduce herself to them. We used to all of us, some of us girls used to be part of a wise women group that was an amazing socially connected group that we were all a part of. In fact, that's where I met Sherelle the first time. But, some of us were ambassadors, right? And so we would just walk around the room and find somebody that we didn't know and introduce ourselves to them. For somebody who is nervous and doing the self-protection, that's a game changer. I mean, I can think of years ago being, not, I was somewhat extroverted at that time, but not like I am now, but I was still kind of leery of just walking up to a stranger and introducing myself. Because I was afraid, like, this person's going to think I'm crazy, right? They don't know me. They've never met me. Connecting is so important. Intentional connection begins before you even speak. Body language, a smile, right? Oftentimes, again, if we're talking about dementia, when I introduce myself to somebody living with dementia, it's Michelle, your friend. And I always point to my name tag or something that is visual identifier. Making eye contact long enough to signal, I'm here, I'm in front of you, I'm ready to connect with you, right? I'm breaking the ice. Slow your internal pace so that you're not mentally rushing ahead. And notice the person's emotional state, not just their words. So a few slides back, we were saying, the brain oftentimes emulates what you're doing. So if you notice that somebody's not smiling back at you or they're looking at you crazy, making sure that they're in the moment with you as well before you continue. The intentional connection isn't just about effort. It's about attention. So you have somebody's undivided attention when you're having a conversation. People feel when you're truly with them. And they also feel when you're half there. Talked about that at the beginning, right? Putting phones down, being totally in the moment. I'm sure we've all had a conversation before where it's just two people and you're in the middle of telling some really vulnerable story, and you can tell by looking at someone's eyes that they are so distracted with another thought process. That is not a fun conversation to have. And intentionality is the difference between we talked and we connected. Okay, the connection factor of that was reciprocated. So listen with curiosity and openness. Ask questions. Again, this is something we've all had a conversation with somebody who we thought was our friend, or we thought that they cared about what we had going on in life, and you ask all the questions, and at the end they're like, okay, well, it's good to see you, right? They don't ask you any questions about yourself. They're not really connecting. They're listening most likely to respond versus listening to listen. And then celebrating others' wins and share your own. And keep showing up. Consistency is what builds the strongest bonds. The more you see people, the more you know about people. I don't see a lot of these people every day on a daily basis in this room, but I had 4 or 5 people wish me a happy birthday today. My birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday. Thank you. But that tells me people are paying attention, right? Even with social media. We're using social media as a way to continually be connected with people. So then when I do see someone, I may have just recognized that something happened yesterday, and I'm able to wish them a happy birthday or happy anniversary or whatever it is. But again, that just tells people that we are engaged. Yes.
Thanks for you.
It's your birthday.
I'm just like,
I appreciate that. Yes.
well, here's a big communication.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
we weren't in person. We weren't engaging person for a long period of time. So that really affected us in our communication skills. And I don't think that we're right now that because there's so many things distracting us, I'm one of those people. I want to, if you talk to me long, I know I will start looking. My mind is going somewhere else. But I don't think that we don't do that enough because there are so many other children. Because
Yeah.
they grew up in this technical world, that if you're not sitting down having conversation, that's what we talk about our youth. They can't go to a job because they do not know how to engage. So that's just another thing that we have to practice.
Yeah, teach them, right? Like, it's okay to have a conversation, you know, and I want to see your eyes, I want to see your face when we're doing that. I have 20-something nieces, and sometimes I'm like, hello, like, I'm right here, not down at the table, please put your phone down and look at my face. Like, I want to see your face, I want to see your eyes and not the top of your head. So I think it's important to, that's a great point, to make sure that, you know, our younger generation, that we're sharing the importance of connection with them. And, you know, some of us that work the day in and day out of senior living, we see that. We see that with this younger generation, you know, 19, 20-year-olds that are coming out of CNA class or CNA, you know, they're coming into the community. Not only can they not connect with other staff, but they're really struggling to connect with residents because they don't know how to connect. Because, you know, technology is all they know. So that's a very good point. I'm going to add that to this presentation somewhere. Okay, so the takeaway. What is the takeaway of all this? What is the big deal, right? The point. Social engagement isn't optional. It's essential to living a vibrant and fulfilling life. We have to be engaged. Every connection you make strengthens your mind, body, and spirit. And I thought this was an interesting point too, that staying social encourages all these other healthy behaviors, which all fall as a piece of brain health and the importance of brain health. So it makes us stay active, right? We can't sit from the couch. I guess we could, but it's hard to sit from the couch and be a part of a group or, you know, something where you're not out and about. It also encourages you to eat well, sleep better, right? The more we're cognitively stimulated and physically stimulated, we tend to sleep better just by default. And it also helps us to seek help when we need it. So if we have 5 or 6 people that we feel like we can reach out to and seek help from, then we always know we've got somebody by our side that can help us. You don't need to make huge changes to do this. Small steps matter. They make a big impact. One step at a time, or baby steps, right? The more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it, and then you'll eventually be doing it more often. And then I just wanted to end with a little call to action here. So this week, I thought about doing like a big vase or big bowl or something, and printing these all out and having everybody choose something, right? As a call to action, something you can do this week. But I decided that may be out of not everybody's would be comfortable with that. So, but I encourage you to join something new, something that you've been curious about. You're like, I don't really have time to do that, or I don't really have the bandwidth to do it. Join something new or learn about joining something new. Try something that you've always wanted to try. We, as part of the brain health education for when I was at the Alzheimer's Association, we talked about learning puzzles or I always said, go to IKEA and buy a bed And that you will be learning something new. So it's got 100 pieces, and you have to use the book, right, to put it together. And it may take you a few days, but at least you're learning something new in the process. You're growing your brain. Reach out to someone. We all have those friends that live out of state or that we don't talk to as often as we would like. So just reach out to them and set some time aside and just visit with them and catch up. Say yes to an opportunity. Somebody reaches out and says, hey, we'd love you to do this, and you're feeling like it's way out of your comfort zone. Do it. It will help you grow. And then be the spark that starts a new connection. This is so important. Especially in your business life, I think, because one of the things that I've always been known as in my career is the connector. So who do you know that should know Terrell? Or who do you know that should know Andrea? Or who do you know that should know Aaron? And putting those people together, because at the end of the day, you're gonna grow their life, right? It's going to be such a benefit to them to know these people. But if nobody says anything about it, nobody takes the initiative to connect them, then we may be missing the boat on something. Do again?
Yeah. Well, because we look at there's a lot of this that. So I'm just kind of going back to what you said. Okay, so I have a granddaughter. She's going to be 20. So I talk, we have that engagement. But I was kind of thinking about what you said about the younger people. I was in home health aide for 3 years. I was older. So if you're looking at younger CNAs, and like you're saying, they may like empathy, compassion. So how would you develop a training to help them? Maybe build a generational gap to be around people that are old, because maybe they don't come. You said you had 20-something nieces.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you have families that are this bad.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not something they have experienced. So how could we help? And, helping them do something different. So I'm just thinking about that. Can I volunteer somewhere and work with young people in helping developing those skills or something like that?
Yeah.
Because we have an aging population, so it's definitely something different.
I agree. Okay, so you are meant to connect. You are meant to grow. You are meant to shine. When you choose connection, you choose a stronger, brighter version of yourself. So let's go out and build a life filled with meaning, joy, and community. So what questions do you guys have for me?
I don't have any.
Music.
Music.
Yes, because
Music is a great way to connect.
I will go into senior living communities and play records for the residents. And that connects them through music because we talk about who it was and when it was.
Yeah.
Records. And so kind of create a little part of it.
I love that. And you never, especially in the senior population, somebody who's very quiet and who doesn't typically speak a whole lot, you turn on Elvis and they come to life. So, what's that?
Leave with that.
Yeah. So music is a great way to connect. It's almost passive connection, It's just something that's playing. Everybody that's in the room involved can connect at whatever level they want to connect at, right? It's a safe way to connect. It's not like we're sitting in a room full of people and going around in a circle and chatting, right? They can connect as they choose. So I love that. Yes, sir.
Here, what I've done for the last 25 years, I'm an entertainer in nursing home.
Well, there you go.
So, and I was telling you that I've gone to places, especially in the small towns we go, where there's like a parent there that's in the facility that has severe dementia. And afterwards, the family members come up and tell me, my dad doesn't talk to anybody, but he was sitting with you.
Oh,
And yeah, I do too. I had a lot of that during, COVID, that's another issue. It is very much a way to reach, into the people, even in older music, exactly. Something like that, and my son performed with me. No, we're not going to do Green Day.
yeah. It's their generation. Maybe leave it back. Yeah.
That's a very valid point about being able to do that. We had a problem during the pandemic, especially in Missouri. We could not get into places.
Oh,
I mean, going into any place in Kansas, we had to have shop records,
yeah.
health certificates, everything else, sign in, temperature, and all that stuff. In Missouri, they just flat wouldn't let us in. And it got so bad in one facility we worked in Maryville, Missouri, where even the families couldn't get in, and the only contact they had with their loved ones for a year and a half was through the window.
Yeah.
And that the first office we got up there where they could bring the residents outside, we actually did a parking lot conference with those people.
Oh,
And they were like free buddies.
yes. They came to life, right? Yeah. Yeah.
The music is a very valid way to connect with dementia people.
Has anybody ever seen a live inside? You should look that up, sir. Alive Inside. So there's another program called Memories in Music, and it kind of correlates with Alive Inside, but it talks about the benefit of music for those who are in the mid to late stages of the disease process of dementia. And that's exactly what you see in this video. So there's a gentleman who is very nonverbal, does not speak often at all, and they recorded this whole interaction with him. But they put headphones on him and let him hear like this jazz music, and he started singing, and just the look on his face, you could see the light bulb go off, and he was like transported back to the day he was in a band, like a jazz band, when he was in his younger life, and he had this like Mississippi drawl. You'll love it. It's a great documentary. It's called Alive Inside. But yes, we use music therapy a lot with Alzheimer's. So Terrell mentioned at the beginning that I have a new consulting business called the Dementia Journey Companion. And what I'm doing is consulting and navigation services for those walking the dementia journey. This is a lonely journey to walk for some people, right? There's a lot of undiscovered territory. And when I was at the Alzheimer's Association, I was on the programs team there. And so I did a lot of this type of service. We had to use our Alzheimer's Association resources at that time. So now I've just kind of started, I still incorporate the Alzheimer's Association a lot, but I have additional services that I'm also recommending. So kind of like Andy mentioned, it could be anything from elder law attorney, it could be placement, it could be behavior management, it could be a day program, like they want to get their loved one involved in getting out and being connected, right? So just I kind of do the background work, so to speak, for those types of services. That just to kind of give you an idea of what a client looks like for me. I have a gal right now that I'm working with, and the son originally reached out to me, and she, the mother, who has dementia, was accusing the staff members. She has two, she's living at home. She has two caregivers. And she was accusing the caregivers of stealing her Oneida china and silverware. So when he called me the first time, he was like, "Have you ever heard of this?" And I said, "Yes, it's typical. Paranoia is a huge part of a dementia diagnosis." So we got together. I got together with him and his sister, and so she is actually a 3-track. And what I mean by that is I'm helping the kids. So they needed help with getting her a dementia diagnosis. So we talked through neurologists and who I would recommend, and the importance of a good dementia diagnosis and what does that testing look like, and kind of queued them up for that, gave them a list of questions to ask at the neurologist. Then I met with the mom, and for her we did a life story and an engagement program. So I went and met her at her home, learned all about her. We did a full life story, and I created an engagement program for her. That looks like doing, a lot of things at home. Some of these outside early stage engagement programs, like the Nelson Atkins Museum, the jam session, the memory cafe. These outside resources that are available for the person living with the disease. And then the third track was for her caregivers. These poor ladies that are helping her. This is such an unfamiliar, scene for them. They're like, well, we're just afraid we're going to get fired, and she's accusing us of stealing things, and of course, their approach was not effective. The way they were responding. So I'm visiting and seeing them twice a month. So ongoing education for them is going to help them to provide the best care possible for her, because the end goal is to keep her at home. So those are some of the things that I do in my business. Carol mentioned 25 years, but not only do I have my own business, but I actually am a caregiver for my mother-in-law. So she has vascular dementia. So when I started in 2003, I had no personal connection. Fast forward to the last 5 years, my mother-in-law. She lives in assisted living. She's doing great. And she's still early in the disease process, but she's also had stroke. So her dementia is the vascular type. So that keeps it very front and center in my mind why I do what I do, right? It's so different to care for a loved one that's close to you versus somebody who is a stranger to you. So anyway, that's a little bit about the dementia journey companion. Yes, I see hands. You again.
Yes. Because the home health aid to a client who literally had no family. Private organization I was not about to take her out. So she may have been experiencing some dementia signs that I had not been trained for. So what I'm asking you, are you seeing more of that type of training? Or people, because I couldn't get any help for the people I was working for. I was not equipped to help. So are you seeing that?
Yes, there's a lot of things that you can do, trainings on your own, like online, like the Alzheimer's Association. There's a lot of self-paced training. One of the things that I do also with my business is just training entities in the community. So I don't know if you grabbed my card or not, but please share that with whomever you feel like might be the contact. But training is really based on what's going to be the most effective for the audience, right? So if it's science-based, the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, or is it behaviors and communication? That's a big one that we look at a lot. How to effectively communicate with someone living with the disease. And I think you guys have a dementia series coming up here in the next few months. From what I remember seeing on the screen, that was one of the things you have coming up. So what we know is it's all about approach. So the wrong approach creates the wrong response. So I think you'll learn a lot in that. Over here, somebody had a question.
Yeah, we have never used the phrase I've never heard before. It's kind of very explain vascular dementia.
Sure. So vascular dementia is, so if you think of an umbrella, dementia is the umbrella. Okay. So very much like cancer, we have all these different types of cancer that live under the umbrella. Dementia is the umbrella term. Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. Vascular is one of the other types of dementia that live under that umbrella. So what we know about vascular dementia is that it's very closely related to cardiac issues. So oftentimes if someone has had a stroke, which my mother-in-law has, if she lives long enough, they live long enough, they will have some sort of cognitive decline in relation to where the stroke affected the brain. Okay, so that's why it's called vascular dementia. Symptoms look a little different for vascular dementia. I mean, that's basically, over the years, that's what we're treating is symptoms when it comes to dementia. That's also how they type it based on a couple of things. That's a piece of the pie, but it's based on symptoms and it's also based on where in the brain it's affected. So some of the others is frontotemporal dementia, the Lewy body dementia, which is very closely related to Parkinson's or Parkinsonian type dementia, Parkinson's type dementia. But to date, hold on guys, this is a big number. We have over 200 different types of dementia. So this disease is not going away. It is a health crisis. And the best thing you can do for it is brain health. Well, brain health. Keep your health, keep your brain healthy.
Do you consider taking something to help you sleep? Is that advantageous or not?
Well, I mean, that's a conversation to have with your doctor, for sure. But I take a melatonin, otherwise I don't get solid sleep. So I know that I need, 6 to 8 hours of REM sleep for my brain to regenerate itself and be clear and active the next day. So I mean, at this point, that's kind of a question for you, and weighing out the benefits of which lesser of the two evils, right? Because we don't want to take a ton of medication, but sleep is vital for you. Any other questions? No? All right, guys. Thank you so much.